Thank you very, very much, Philip, for that great introduction on our today's topic, which is crafting your signature sound. My name is Boris, and I'm the machine specialist, and as such, I'd like to provide you with a couple of tips and tricks that you could use at home for yourself, not only with Maschine, but with any kind of other sampler out there, to actually come up and create and find your own sonic hook for maybe a song that you are working on at the moment. So I start very, very simple with a trick that allows you to actually maximize the potential of your existing sound library. So all of you most probably have a hard disk full of sounds, little single sounds, little one-shot samples. And I will now introduce you to a technique that you could use to extend a single one-shot sound and make it actually a playable instrument. It would be great if we could have the software running on the screen next to me, because then I can show you a little bit of what's going on here. So I started with a screensaver? No, I started with a very, very simple sound. I recorded myself at home, a very, very high note through my Shure SM58, and it's not a really good quality, but that doesn't matter for what we are going to do now. So let's take a closer look at that sample. And we are going to see that there is a waveform in my little display showing me a play marker which runs over the sample. So what I like to do now is to loop a certain section of the waveform itself and loop it up so it becomes a continuous playing tone. So let's activate the loop marker for a second. And you will see that the display here is changing just a little bit, and you see that there's a little loop sign coming in. And this allows me to select just a section of the sample. And the next time when I play that one shot, you will hear that it actually starts to repeat. And it will just repeat until I let go of the pad again. So that's very nice. One little thing that is annoying is that little click. Every time the loop is looping, it creates a little click, 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 something like this. And with the crossfade function of Maschine or any sophisticated sampler out there, we can actually reduce that click a little bit. Because what it does, it takes a little bit of the beginning of the loop and mixes it into the end and vice versa. And so we actually end up with a very nice, soft, continuous tone. And to make it playable, I can go into keyboard mode. Oh, sorry. And very, very important, instead of playing the notes just step by step like this, I'd like to actually bend from one note into the other by going into the legato mode and activating the glide. I can really go from one note to the other and back. It's actually reminding me a little bit of the Justin Bieber example that we've heard before. So that would be a possible technique to come up with a sound that sounds like that. So I prepared my little annoying vocal sound, and really, look, would you agree that this is really annoying? And I now have a theory. It's all about the context. So if I put this annoying sound into a other context, it might be able to work out. So I created this little draft, this little rhythm, which is very, very simple, just a bass line with a couple of beats on top. And a couple of other percussion sounds. And within a second, it becomes less annoying because we have something to actually put it into contrast to. And it's super fun because you can take this and apply that simple principle to any other sound out there. So this looping works very well with one-shot samples. Let's take a look on what is happening when I reduce the loop section even further. So I will go into the same loop again and now narrow down the section. And at one point, you will actually hear that there is a frequency coming in because the loop is going so fast that it's going into the hearing range and there is a frequency that just starts to pile up. So the smaller the loop, the higher the frequency. And so we even can work with a little bit of that section. And let's try that technique and apply it to a bass kick. So I have a little bass kick here, and let's try the same thing again. I will put on that loop. And now actually dial in a sine wave. And if I would put a little equalizer on top, it would, after a while, sound like something like this. So that's the exact same bass kick sound that we've heard before. Check this out. This is the bass kick sound without loop. One, and this is with the loop. What is it? So it's very different from where we started off. And again, it's all about the context. Let's see if I have another draft over here that might need a bass line. And record. Wow, there is like, we started off with one bass kick and we ended up with a very funky hip-hop bass line. At the end of this little draft, I even brought in those kinds of effect sounds, little swooshy sounds. So let's find out what this was in the very, very first place, because as you might actually imagine, it's also a one-shot sound. So let's start deconstructing it by erasing the beat delay effect. I will just remove it. Now we have it without any delay. Let's see if we can go to the original pitch again. All right, let's deactivate the loop. And do you hear this? This is actually a hi-hat. So it's been a hi-hat sound in the very beginning, and I ended up with something completely different. So I would call this micro-looping, and I would encourage you to go out and check it out for yourselves, because it really depends on the sample that you load into your software and you loop it up. It's almost a little bit like wavetable synthesis. So here, clearly, our sampler becomes a synthesizer by using it as a loop generator and by generating tones out of this. Last but not least, the third tip is a little bit more abstract, and it goes a bit more into the clicks and cuts, warp records, Autechre kind of area. So for this trick, I have 4 little zap sounds. And that's it. I don't need more than this. By using the note repeat function, I can actually use those zaps and create little stuttering effects and create a pattern with that. So let's listen to this. Whoop. So by just recording some of the zaps with the note repeat, I ended up with this loop. Yeah, it's just zap sounds again. And what I'm going to do now is I start automating parameters in Machine. So I will grab one of the sounds, change the tune, and record that movement, and just actually record wild automation on Machine and see if that is changing the tonality of that zap sound. So, and the first one. All right, the next one. Let's pin it. Reverse it. All right, next one. Reverse it. All right, and you really you get a feel of that. Like with every move I make, it becomes a little bit more abstract. And last but not least, I will bring in a grain delay. Right, and that's enough, because I will now resample what I've just did and create a new sample with this by using the built-in sampler function. Hit start, and let's select the correct channel. It is group C. Zap modulation, start this, and here we go. And stop. So Machine helped me to record a little resampled version of that. And of course, now I can listen to that snippet that I've created, or even slice it up a little bit. So let's see, when I put it into 8 different... Yeah, I come up with like little snippets. You come up with little snippets that haven't been in your library before. So that was the last tip and trick, and actually the most complicated one of all of these. So yes, just try to automate stuff on Machine and really try out micro loops.